Lightbox through the lens of SAMR. I'd like to introduce myself to you today using numbers. My name is Sheneman, and 29 represents the number of years that I have been in the field of education. 17 represents the number of years I've worked with school librarians and their support of classroom instruction. 11 represents the number of years that I've taught master's and doctoral level students in the areas of educational technology and school librarianship. But let's look at your life as an educator. You went to college, you learned about pedagogy, you became an expert in your content area. Upon graduation, you became certified and you got familiar with the resources that were available to you. But in more recent years, we've had to become Educator 2.0. Technology has become a key part of everything that we do as a classroom teacher. It's become part of our pedagogy, part of our content area, and even a part of our resources. It's helped us with 21st century learning skills. It's helped us individualize education and even personalize our learning experiences. And more recently, it's become a key part of our remote learning. In all of that, we've had to find that sweet spot where digital technology has supported everything else that we have done in our classroom. But I need you to think of classroom as more than just your physical space. Of course, it does include your physical space, but it also would include a remote learning space. It could include a school library. It could include a field trip. Anywhere that you as a teacher are sharing your content with your students, that's what I want you to think of when you hear classroom today. And Lightbox is something that you can use to help you find that sweet spot. So we're going to look at Lightbox today through the lens of SAMR. Now, SAMR may not be a model that you're familiar with, but it's a model that will help you understand the power that the integration of technology can have. There's substitution and augmentation that happen at the basic levels, and they're going to help you as a teacher just enhance what you're doing in the classroom. The modification and redefinition that's where we have the strongest power. We see the strength of technology integration because that's where our students' learning is transformed. To help us understand this a little bit better, we're going to use a coffee analogy. Coffee is something that many households are familiar with, and we're going to use that as you think about various flavors or types of coffee to help us understand how technology moves from the very simple level of technology all the way to the very advanced levels. So in this analogy, in your home, your parents may have drank coffee as you were growing up, and then you were accustomed to seeing a coffee pot with just the little cup of coffee from home. Over time, coffee houses were introduced, so you might have started seeing your parents come home with a fancy cup that had coffee from the coffee house, but it was still just black coffee, nothing special to it. They substituted that. Well, at our next level, we've got augmentation. Maybe your grandparents taught you this part about coffee. Maybe the black coffee was a little too strong for you, and so they taught you how to add milk to it like a latte, and it made it become something that was still coffee, but just had a little bit more features added to that. At a later point, possibly your cool aunt came to visit, and she brought in something called a caramel macchiato, and you wondered, is this possibly even coffee anymore? It was so different than anything you had ever seen. It had been modified. And eventually, you might have started going to coffee houses yourself, and the coffee experience was totally redefined for you. It was no longer just a cup of coffee that you would have at home or in your car or at work. It became an experience. And in this example, we'll say pumpkin spice, that you would go to the coffee house and have pumpkin spice with all of your friends. They totally redefined what the coffee experience was like for you. So what is this really all about? It's not about giving teachers and students technology because you have that technology now. It's pretty commonplace in most of our schools at this point. But what we are talking about is transforming teaching and learning. We want to find that sweet spot where our digital technology is supporting everything else in the best possible way that we do in the classroom. So what SAMR will help us understand is what types of technology that we could use that are going to have a greater or a lesser effect on student learning. So once again, we've got our substitution and our augmentation levels, which are the enhancement of just the basic teaching. But where we're going to see the radical difference, the radical change in our students' learning is at the modification and redefinition level. So let's look at Lightbox. Lightbox, you could think of as a simple substitution for a printed book. So as a teacher, maybe you are going to read a book or read some content to your students. So if we were looking for a substitution for that, the technology would just be a direct substitution for that book. So in this case, the teacher would read an ebook to the students rather than using a printed book. And because of how our classrooms are now, they could be projecting that ebook onto a whiteboard. They could be sharing their screen remotely. They could even have their students at a computer lab at school or any other number of scenarios. But they're simply choosing to read an ebook to the students. That's it. There's no interaction with the book. It's simply reading the book. Now, Lightbox has several features that are substitutions for something that you would typically do in a classroom. As I just mentioned, they have digital content. They have a digital ebook that would replace a printed book. They also have online worksheets. So where you might have passed out a printed activity, you could now have an online worksheet of that. Where you might have had a printed map or a book of maps, you now have Google Maps available to you as a substitution in Lightbox. As well, there are some first-hand documents, some curated articles, and some additional excerpts. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go into Lightbox and we'll see what these features look like. I'm using the book about glaciers. Okay, in this example, we've replaced our printed book, our hard copy material, with this digital document. This is a digital page in the book. And we can see that we have some activities that our students could do. That's our pencil icon. And we even have Google Maps where we can go and explore these different areas across the world that have glaciers. So if we move on from just a simple substitution of the book, we're going to move to A for augmentation. Now in augmentation, that technology is still just a direct substitute for the tool, but you're starting to take advantage of the special features that are available. So in our analogy that we're talking about using an ebook, instead of simply reading the ebook to the students, now the teacher is going to guide the students to take advantage of the interactive features. They might hear it being read aloud if they need reading support. They might play the videos to build deeper learning. They might interact with the Google Maps and other interactive features. When we look at Lightbox, we can see that they have a lot of features that support augmentation level. There's interactive ebooks, text-to-speech, videos for scaffolding, web links for in-depth research, Google Maps to help our students visualize. We have quizzes with automated grading, keywords with instant feedback, first-hand documents for varied perspectives, and other documents that are supplementary material. Let's see what those look like. In this case, our features are going to open on the side, and we have our video play button, and we can see that it's highlighting on the side where we could play a video. And again, we've got our web links. So our students are able to interact with the features, making this more than just an ebook. It's an interactive ebook. Those were the basic levels, the substitution and augmentation levels, where they just enhanced what you were doing in the classroom. But remember, we want to move to the higher levels where we're going to transform what's happening with the teaching and the learning in our classrooms. So let's look at M for modification. This time, we're going to have a task that's significantly redesigned by the introduction of technology. So in this example, the teacher is not simply using the ebook as a story, but instead, he's able to tailor the students' learning to their interest and to their needs. He could let the students use Lightbox to create presentations and even to work on a project-based learning activity. At the modification level, students can create presentations, videos, artwork, and other projects using digital Lightbox resources that make it easy to tailor the learning experience to individual interests and needs. So if we look at modification available through Lightbox, we can see we have multiple levels of learning that are available: auditory, visual, kinesthetic, opportunities for independent study, all kinds of things that are helping us meet our individual students' needs. With Lightbox features, we're able to provide varying perspectives and points of view on specific issues or events for a deeper interaction between educators, students, and even peers. We can even maintain contact with our learners during remote learning. Let's move on to R for redefinition. This is when new tasks are possible that were never possible before. So in this example, the teacher could use Lightbox for distance education or even flipped learning opportunities. The teacher can allow the students to accelerate their learning by pursuing topics that are of interest to them. We provide a multi-sensory experience that goes beyond the traditional classroom, teaching and engaging different learning styles while still covering the same core material. We give students the opportunity to accelerate that learning when they're ready for it. They can explore a variety of subject areas through virtual visits to historic sites, museums, science centers, and other facilities while they're using Google Maps. And it provides a launchpad for the creation of multimedia projects, ranging from the creation of videos and short films to the multimedia art installations on a variety of subjects. In this example, I've used Google Classroom as a way to connect with my students with my content. I've linked an activity and I've linked the story. So when we're looking at redefinition, which is the highest level of transformation, we see that it's possible to use Lightbox for distance education, multisensory experience, individual needs, multimedia creation, and virtual exploration. Lightbox is connected with curriculum standards. They cover National Generation Science Standards, National Council for the Social Studies, Common Core State Standards, and other state standards. Here's a quick peek at what they look like at the different grade bands. This is grades K through 2, where you can see very simple text and very simple feature buttons. If we're looking at grades 6 through 8, this is an example of a Spanish title, and you can see there is much more content and much more interaction. And when we come to the high school level, we can see our content is going much deeper, and we're having a lot more for our students to interact with. So Lightbox is a wonderful tool to help you move through technology integration, to move from simply enhancing what you're doing as a teacher to where you are transforming the learning that is going on in your classroom. The features are spread across all of the grade bands, and they can help you move from just a basic substitution to augmentation where you use the features, to modifying and doing something new, to total redefinition of what you're doing in the classroom. So that's a peek at Lightbox through the lens of SAMR.